Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're embarking on a really compelling deep dive into some ancient wisdom. Wisdom that honestly speaks directly to our modern lives.
Mm-hmm.
We're drawing profound insights from verses 35 to 44 of Kehf Suresi. Now, for anyone maybe not familiar, Kehf Suresi is a really significant chapter from the Quran.
Foundational, really.
Exactly. It explores these deep truths about human nature, our relationship with the world. And this particular story, it isn't just, an old tale.
Not at all.
It's a timeless exploration of us, of human nature, our often very complex relationship with material things, with possessions, and maybe most crucially, where we actually choose to place our trust.
Yeah.
It really challenges us, I think, to look inward and properly reconsider how we define success, what genuine security even looks like.
And what's truly fascinating here is how these specific verses offer a kind of shortcut, a direct path almost, to understanding these deep, universal truths about pride, about humility, and the inherently transient nature of wealth.
Right, it never lasts, does it?
It doesn't. And by exploring this material with us today, you, our listener, you'll hopefully gain a fresh perspective. A way to look at how we define our self-worth, the often hidden pitfalls of getting too attached to worldly things, and the profound, really transformative difference it makes when we acknowledge where true power lies. How that helps us navigate life's inevitable ups and downs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this whole deep dive, it's based on a really thoughtful exploration of a compelling source that delves into these timeless themes. It provides this rich tapestry of interpretation and, importantly, practical application for our lives today.
Before we really jump into the heart of it all today, if you find value in these deep dives, if you appreciate these conversations and you want to support what we do,
Yeah, that'd be great.
we'd be so grateful if you could just take a moment to subscribe. It really does help us continue bringing these kinds of in-depth analyses and conversations to you. 1, revisiting foundations: faith, good deeds, and human responsibility. Okay, so last time we touched on verses 30 to 34, and they laid some truly crucial groundwork for us, didn't they?
They really did. Set the stage perfectly.
We focused on those core concepts, Iman, which means trust or faith, and Sal Amel, or basically good deeds. Let's just quickly remind ourselves of those foundational ideas because honestly, they set the stage perfectly for what we're about to explore today. They highlight this stark contrast, really, between two very different paths people can take.
Absolutely. And the source material from our last deep dive, it really emphasized that Iman isn't just belief, not just, mentally agreeing with an idea.
Right, it's more than that.
It's presented as this profound, deep-seated sense of security. Confidence, even. It's a trust that's rooted in something universal, something utterly dependable, something beyond just the fleeting circumstances of life. Think of it less like a theory and more like this inner knowing, a stable foundation that gives you peace, regardless of what's happening outside.
Like an anchor.
Exactly, like an anchor. And when you possess that kind of profound trust, that deep inner security, it naturally translates. It flows into actions and thoughts that are inherently good. Actions that reflect and reinforce that inner peace, that stability.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's like, building your house on solid rock. Whatever storms come, that foundation holds firm.
So it's not just what you believe in your head, but how that fundamental trust actually shows up, how it plays out in your daily life, your choices, your interactions.
Precisely. And that brings us straight to Sali Amel. Our source defines it as behavior and thought patterns that are unifying, integrating, and life-giving.
Unifying, integrating, life-giving.
Okay. Yeah, imagine actions that actively build connections, bring people together, foster growth, harmony within a community, or even just within yourself. It's about contributing positively to the vast tapestry of existence, weaving goodness into the fabric of life, rather than, creating divisions or tearing things down.
Right. Building bridges, not walls.
Exactly. And the source really contrasts this eloquently with actions that aren't based on this deep trust. When people operate from insecurity or lacking that foundation, their actions tend to be self-serving, often leading to isolation, fragmentation, and ultimately this sense of disconnection. It's a powerful distinction, isn't it? Do your actions unite or divide? Do they give life or diminish it?
That makes perfect sense. And then there was this really lovely concept, wasn't there, about beautification. It struck me how much agency it puts on us.
Yeah.
Responsibility.
Yes. The human responsibility to beautify one's surroundings through actions. And this isn't about superficial stuff, not just making things look pretty.
Right, not just aesthetics.
No. It's about what we do, individually, collectively, to actively improve the situation around us,
Right.
to bring harmony, integrity, goodness into our environment, whether that's our home, our workplace, our community, even our own inner landscape.
Or inner world, too.
Definitely. And the emphasis here is squarely on our agency,
Yeah.
our contribution, our active participation. It's not about passively waiting for others to fix things or just blaming external circumstances.
Yeah, taking ownership.
It's an active, ongoing process of betterment, a constant striving to make things more beautiful, more functional, more aligned with what's intrinsically good.
And what happens when our actions genuinely align with these universal divine values? This idea of beautification. The source mentions something quite profound. Universal support.
It is profound, almost like an ecological principle, actually. If our actions, our thoughts, our intentions are genuinely aligned with these universal values called God's values,
Yeah.
or the inherent laws of the cosmos,
Yeah.
then it's as if all external factors, all influences, seem to naturally support the individual. The source calls this ecological balance. It's a beautiful analogy, I think.
Ecological balance, I like that.
It's the idea that everything in the cosmos operates according to these intricate, harmonious laws. And when we work with those laws, in harmony with them, the entire system, in a way, supports us.
Wow.
The analogy used in the source is Allah's support for believers through angels, which implies, that when you're truly aligned with the divine order, all of creation, in its own way, implicitly supports and facilitates your path.
That's amazing.
This alignment gives immense strength. It imbues your existence with true value and creates this powerful resonance with the universe itself. It's like sailing with the wind instead of fighting against it.
It's like a cosmic positive feedback loop. But how do we actually know? How do we know if we're truly aligned, if our actions are really rooted in that deep trust you mentioned?
Well, that leads directly to the importance of what the source calls self-sorgilama, self-interrogation.
Self-interrogation.
Okay, it's about constantly questioning our own motivations, our values, our choices. Are they aligned with these universal divine principles, the ones that endure, that don't change? Or are they just being swayed by external fleeting things like societal trends or temporary gains, peer pressure, maybe even just the desire for approval?
The things that don't last.
Exactly. This is a continuous inner dialogue, a deep self-assessment. So to you, our listener, we pose this crucial question. Are your actions based on a deep, enduring trust, a foundational security in something universal and unchanging? Or are they influenced, perhaps unconsciously, by external temporary factors, things that can shift and disappear in a heartbeat? This reflection is absolutely key to understanding the really powerful cautionary tale we're about to dive into now. 2. The peril of pride. The man in his garden. Ayats 35-36.
Now, this next part of the narrative, it presents such a powerful contrast to those foundational ideas we just revisited. This is where it gets really interesting.
The turning point.
These next verses dive right into the story of a man, continuing the narrative from last week. And this isn't just a parable, is it? It's like a deep psychological portrait of human hubris, a truly potent cautionary tale about what happens when that foundational trust we just talked about is totally misplaced.
Utterly misplaced.
When it's directed at all the wrong things.
Indeed. The story opens, and it's significant how it opens. The rich man enters his opulent garden while wronging himself. Or, as the source puts it, Sumidar will do a halde.
Wronging himself, even before anything bad happens externally.
Exactly. This act of self-oppression, this internal injustice, it's crucial because it happens before any outward calamity. He's already in this state of profound internal imbalance, spiritual disarray.
Wow.
And his pronouncements, spoken from inside his lush garden, they reveal the terrifying extent of his delusion, his arrogance. I do not think that this garden will ever perish, he declares, as if his stuff, his material possessions are eternal, impervious to decay or loss.
He thinks it's forever.
He does, and he goes even further, saying, I do not think the hour will come. He's denying ultimate accountability, denying the transient nature of this life itself.
Just total denial.
Total denial, and his ultimate display of arrogance. Even if I were returned to my Lord, I would find something better than this.
Unbelievable.
He genuinely believes his worldly success somehow guarantees divine favor in the afterlife. A profound miscalculation of cosmic proportions. He sees his current wealth as proof God prefers him, rather than seeing it as what it truly is, a test.
So his arrogance isn't just about having stuff or how much stuff he has. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of his own place in the universe. A self-inflicted spiritual wound, really.
Exactly. And our source delves deep into this emotion called shumadukluk, We can think of it as a kind of corrosive, self-destructive arrogance or this profound sense of entitlement.
Oh,
It's that inflated ego that comes from perceived superiority because of wealth or power or status. The source vividly defines it through these insidious internal thoughts like, I have it, they shouldn't, or what they have should actually be mine because I deserve it more.
ooh, that's ugly.
It escalates quickly to, I have more than you, and this inherent superiority makes me fundamentally better than you. And the profound warning delivered in the source is stark. It's chilling, actually. If you're spoiled, you need no other enemy.
Wow. You become your own worst enemy.
Exactly. It highlights how utterly self-destructive that kind of inflated ego truly is. It creates its own internal prison, isolating the person from reality, from genuine connection with others, and from a proper understanding of their place in creation. It's a subtle but very potent poison for the soul.
And this shimariklik, this deep spoiledness you're describing, how does it connect with the broader idea we might know better, kibir or pride? Are they different things or facets of the same problem?
They're very closely linked, almost two sides of the same coin, you could say, but with a subtle difference. Shimariklik is more the internal feeling of entitlement, of superiority that comes from blessings or possessions.
Okay, the internal state.
Right. While kibir is more the outward manifestation of that internal state, it's the pride that becomes striking in human relationships.
How you act towards others.
Precisely. And without a doubt, the abundance of wealth or capital, if it goes unchecked, it inevitably fosters this state of pride, this kibir. It shows up in how someone interacts with others subtly, or sometimes very overtly, asserting superiority, dismissing others' views, demanding deference. This person starts to internalize this dangerous feeling of permanence, believing their wealth will last forever, their prosperity is unshakable, the rich man's detailed plans for future investments, even thinking about expanding his empire. It just solidifies this delusion.
He's planning like it's guaranteed.
Exactly. He's not just enjoying his current wealth. He's projecting this unshakable future based entirely on it, completely ignoring the transient nature of all worldly things. He's built his whole identity on shifting sands.
Which brings us back to that idea of self-oppression, zulm. How does this deep pride, the spoiledness, lead to him wronging himself? How does it actually harm him?
Well, this internal state, the pride, the denial, the shimariklik and kibir, it directly leads to self-oppression, to zulm. Yet the individual is completely unaware of the harm they're inflicting on themselves.
They don't even see it.
Not at all. The rich man genuinely believes he's privileged in God's presence because of his wealth, not in spite of it.
Yeah.
This is a deep misjudgment, a fundamental error in how he gauges divine favor. He's mixed up material abundance with spiritual standing.
A critical mistake.
Absolutely critical. And it blinds him to his own internal suffering, the spiritual decay that's happening inside him. He's oppressive to his own soul by denying its true source of sustenance, its inherent limitations. So, to you, our listener, maybe take a moment for some deep self-reflection here. Where do you draw that line?
The line between earning what you've worked for and maybe an unwarranted, self-inflating sense of entitlement.
That's a tough question.
It is. And how do we check our own certainties, those beliefs we hold so strongly? That might not actually be true, just comfortable illusions. It's a profound challenge, especially in a world that often celebrates self-made success without acknowledging the deeper currents at play.
It really is. That's a powerful question. And it instantly makes me think of that brilliant Mark Twain quote. It seems almost tailor-made for this exact situation.
Yes, the Mark Twain quote. It resonates so perfectly here, doesn't it? It's not what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so.
Yeah. And this applies so profoundly to how society often operates. You see, individuals, even whole groups, being overly certain of their own views, their own rightness, their own narrative.
All the time.
In politics, in business, even in personal relationships. These verses are inviting us to a process of constant self-assessment, a continuous checking of our assumptions, our beliefs against objective universal criteria, specifically against divine revelation like the Quran.
So it's about humility, intellectually as well as spiritually.
Precisely. Cultivating intellectual humility alongside spiritual humility. Being open to the possibility that what we are absolutely certain of might, in fact, be a dangerous illusion.
And what's the ultimate, almost tragic misconception at the heart of this man's downfall? What fundamental truth is he just completely missing?
The source explicitly highlights this stark difference between human effort and divine provision. Think about something as seemingly simple as a thriving garden.
Okay.
Our efforts planting, watering, fertilizing, tilling the soil might be, maybe a tiny fraction? Let's say 1% of the total contribution.
Right, pretty small in the grand scheme.
Tiny. The other 99% comes from divine provision. The sun's energy, the exact composition of the soil, the miraculous water cycle, the very laws of nature that allow growth, photosynthesis, life itself to flourish.
Things totally beyond our control.
Totally. So, to claim 100% credit for that minuscule 1% effort, which is essentially what the rich man does, is a fundamental wronging of oneself, a profound misplacement of value. It's that insidious thought, I am God's favorite servant, that's why he gave me this. Which subtly, or sometimes not so subtly, leads to looking down on others who don't have similar wealth or possessions. This material abundance, instead of being seen as a blessing and a trust,
Yeah.
it gives the illusion of an unending existence. It replaces a recognition of life's true purpose, which is fundamentally a continuous test. It's a tragic self-deception, trapping the person in a transient reality, mistaking the gift for the giver.
Right.
The call to humility. Shirk and true origin, ayats 37 and 38.
So, with this deep internal zone, this self-oppression clearly laid out, how does the story shift? Amidst all this self-delusion, his friend steps in and offers this really profound reality check.
A crucial moment.
It's like a moment of piercing clarity, isn't it? A desperate, almost loving attempt to pull him back from the edge of spiritual oblivion before it's too late.
This friend's intervention is absolutely pivotal. A true act of wisdom and courage, too. He doesn't just criticize the man's arrogance. He interrogates the very foundation of the man's being, challenges his whole distorted perception of himself.
How does he do that?
He asks him directly, did you disbelieve in him who created you from dust, then from a sperm drop, then fashioned you into a man?
Wow, straight to the point.
Right. This question powerfully, succinctly reminds the man of his humble origins, takes him right back to the basic elements of creation. Dust, a tiny sperm drop. It forces him to acknowledge God's ultimate, undeniable role in his very existence.
Strips away the illusion.
Completely strips away the illusion of self-made grandeur, of self-sufficiency. The friend is basically asking, how can you be so arrogant? How can you claim such independent power when you know where you really came from and who really fashioned you into being? It's a call to remember the profound journey of creation from almost nothing.
In this powerful question, it leads us right to the concept of shirk. Now, we often think of shirk as, outright idol worship, bowing to statues or something. But our source suggests something much more subtle, more insidious, maybe, and really relevant to us today.
You're absolutely right. Shirk, in this deep context, isn't just the overt worship of other deities in a physical sense. It's a far more subtle, deeply ingrained spiritual disease.
Okay, so what is it then?
It's when someone starts to depend on material things. Could be wealth, their environment, social status, career, even a relationship. Depend on them to the extent that losing those things means losing their very self. Their identity, their purpose, their security.
Wow. So if it's gone, you feel gone.
Exactly. The source clarifies. When these things are gone, the person believes they are destroyed. This dependence, this ultimate reliance on created things rather than the creator, that equates to associating partners with God in the deepest sense.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
The mind becomes fragmented, unable to find its true bearings, its stability, because it's lost sight of God as the ultimate, the singular power, the true anchor of existence. It's valuing the means more than the ultimate end.
So it's not just about what you say with your lips, but where your heart truly finds its security. It's the ultimate source of comfort and value. Is that it?
Precisely. The behavioral manifestation is key. People don't usually say out loud, I love this money as much as God, or my career defines me more than my creator.
No, of course not.
But their actions, their anxieties, their evaluations of themselves and others, they often reflect exactly that misplaced love, that ultimate reliance. They value others based on their possessions, their status, their perceived worth in the material sense.
That's shirk.
That is shirk in its deeply ingrained, almost invisible form, a kind of internal idolatry. And this condition, it also leads to denying one's fitrat, our innate nature. It means denying one's true creation, one's innate, pure nature, which inherently recognizes God as the creator and sustainer. The fundamental question becomes, how can you possibly sideline the immense, overwhelming power that designed, planned, and sustains all of existence, that 99% divine contribution we talked about,
Yeah.
and then claim ultimate power or self-sufficiency for yourself? It's a profound act of self-deception that just warps your entire reality.
It sounds like a recipe for constant anxiety, always desperately clinging to things that are fleeting, always afraid of losing them.
Indeed. And it also highlights the critical importance of knowing one's had, knowing your boundaries, your limits.
That limits.
Yes, acknowledging these limits, understanding our place in the cosmic order, it's absolutely essential for living what the Source calls a beautiful life. It's about cultivating true humility, knowing where and how to stand in relation to the divine and to creation itself. It's about seeking help, understanding our efforts are just part of a larger, divinely sustained system, rather than believing we're the sole architects of our destiny. This understanding frees us, doesn't it? Frees us from the crushing burden of thinking we have to control everything, or that our worth is tied up in things outside ourselves.
Things that can vanish.
Things that can vanish in an instant. It liberates us from the anxiety of the illusion of control.
So to you, our listener, here's a crucial question for reflection. Do you recognize the profound difference between being a creator, a self-sufficient entity, and merely being a steward, a caretaker of what you've been given?
That's key.
Where do you truly draw your strength, your ultimate security? And how does that fundamental source of strength influence your interactions with others and your view of your own inherent worth? This is a core challenge these verses put to every single one of us every day. 4. Acknowledging divine power. The wisdom of mashallah. Ayats 39 to 41. Now, ayats 39 to 41. Now, the friend in the story, he doesn't just critique the rich man's huge errors. He actually offers a solution, a simple phrase, but incredibly powerful, and it holds deep meaning for us even today.
Yes, it's a key.
It's like a key that unlocks a different way of seeing the world, seeing our place in it, a way that cultivates humility, true perspective.
Yes, the friend's counsel is direct, it's compassionate, but it's also impactful. He says, why did you not say when you entered your garden what Allah willed, mashallah? There is no power except with Allah. La quwwata illa billah.
Mashallah la quwwata illa billah.
And this isn't just, a polite saying. A cultural nicety. It's a profound declaration of spiritual consciousness, a conscious acknowledgement of divine agency.
So, what is the truly deeper meaning of mashallah? Because it's a common expression, right? We hear it often. But it sounds like there's much more going on beneath the surface than just simple admiration.
There really is. Mashallah is a declaration. It acknowledges God's will and power as the ultimate, the foundational source of any beauty, any blessing, any good fortune we see, whether it's in ourselves or in others.
Okay.
Take the example the Source gives. Seeing a beautiful child and instinctively saying mashallah. It isn't just admiring the child's cuteness. It's a crucial, subtle reminder to the parents. This beauty, this blessing is ultimately from God.
Ah, I see.
It prevents that self-admiration from taking root, stops them falling into the same trap as the rich man, taking undue credit for something that is ultimately a divine gift. Traditionally, yes, it's believed to protect from the evil eye,
Right.
but our Source gives a deeper psychological understanding. It's less about a literal, superstitious gaze and more about correcting our inherent human tendency, our tendency to attribute perfection solely to ourselves or our own efforts, or even to become envious.
Okay, preventing envy too.
Exactly. By saying, mashallah, you acknowledge the divine source. You prevent that subtle arrogance that can undermine the blessing itself. And you protect from the negative energy of envy, whether it's coming from others or even from within yourself. It reminds us our efforts are just a small, tiny part of this larger, majestic divine system that allows any blessing to even exist.
That's a massive shift in perspective from the rich man's view, which was totally centered on his own agency, his ownership.
Absolutely. And the rich man's immediate response to his friend, it highlights his profound misconception of value, his completely warped lens on reality. He says, you see me as less than you in wealth and children.
He brings it right back to money and status.
Right back. This statement reveals his entire worldview. His internal accounting of worth is based solely on material possessions and social standing, a purely transactional, superficial metric. His inability to recognize his friend's genuine concern.
He just doesn't get it.
He sees it only through this materialistic lens. It just underscores his deep-seated shirk, his internal idolatry of wealth. He truly believes his accumulated wealth, his social standing, are definitive proof God selected him, a testament to his superior intelligence, his capability, his innate righteousness. He's trapped in a value system that is fundamentally flawed, completely blind to any other form of worth.
And the friend, almost like a prophecy, warns him about the inevitable loss, doesn't he? Lays bare how fragile his assumed permanence really is.
Indeed. The friend compassionately but firmly highlights the inherent fragility of the man's assumed permanence and control. He warns, "Perhaps my Lord will give me something better than your garden," subtly indicating, God's blessings aren't limited to one form. They can always be replaced or surpassed. And then he describes the various ways wealth can vanish, vividly illustrating its transient nature. And he might send a reckoning from the sky upon it so it becomes a barren plain.
Total destruction.
Or its water will sink into the earth and you will never be able to find it. This powerfully emphasizes that all power to sustain or destroy lies ultimately with God, not with the individual's perceived control or vast investments or accumulated wealth. It's a sobering reminder, isn't it? Our hold on material things, no matter how substantial they seem, is incredibly tenuous.
So it's about preparing not just for endless abundance, but for the unexpected, for potential loss. But doing it with a deep sense of inner peace.
Precisely. This serves as a vital, liberating reminder that really anything can happen at any moment. We simply do not know what tests, what changes, what challenges are waiting around the corner. Could be small inconveniences, could be life-altering events.
Right.
True preparedness, therefore, means recognizing deeply that I am not the ultimate owner of this life. It belongs to my Lord, who is the true sustainer and possessor. This mindset fosters a deep inner peace. It frees us from that debilitating anxiety of clinging desperately to what is inherently fleeting.
It changes fear into acceptance.
Yes, and anxiety into trust. So to you, our listener, we ask, how often do you truly acknowledge the ultimate source of your blessings, beyond just your own efforts? What would it genuinely mean to live a life prepared for both abundance and potential loss, with a steadfast, unwavering trust in the ultimate giver, the ultimate authority?
What?
5. The inevitable fall and regret. Ayat 42.
And then the inevitable happened. The verses describe a stark, powerful, utterly devastating consequence to this man's unchecked pride. His profound self-delusion, his absolute refusal to listen to the wisdom his friend offered so lovingly.
The bill comes due.
It really does. It's a moment of profound destruction, isn't it? Both external and internal. A complete, shocking reversal of his fortunes.
The verses state this devastation with chilling precision. And his produce was encompassed, meaning his lavish gardens, all his meticulous investments, all his accumulated earnings, completely destroyed, leaving him empty, utterly ruined.
Everything gone.
Total. Unequivocal devastation, not just a partial loss. And in that moment of utter ruin, when all his worldly props have been knocked away, the rich man finally expresses regret. A regret that cuts right to the core of his spiritual misdirection, his deep-seated shirk.
What does he say?
He says, "Oh, I wish I had not associated partners with my Lord." This is that agonizing epiphany, but it comes tragically too late. Recognizing his deep spiritual error only after material loss has stripped away all his illusions.
It sounds like a truly harsh lesson, but maybe necessary. A lesson about that illusion of ultimate control that so many of us, especially today, tend to chase after.
It is. People often mistakenly feel that money, power, possessions grant them ultimate control over life. That with enough wealth, they can navigate any storm, overcome any challenge, maybe even buy their way out of adversity.
Yeah, the feeling of being invincible.
Right. But the profound reality, as these verses highlight, is that we are all part of this massive, intricate system, a vast machine of creation governed by divine laws. Humans, we're just small, interconnected components within this grand design.
Just tiny parts.
We are responsible for our part, yes. For our actions, our efforts, for using our blessings wisely, but we are not, and we can never be, responsible for the entire mechanism, nor can we ultimately control its workings. This distinction is absolutely crucial for perspective, for humility, for avoiding the kind of tragic self-deception we see in this rich man.
And when disaster strikes, when that ultimate power asserts itself, it seems like there's just no one to turn to, no external or internal aid that can really help.
The verses emphasize this complete helplessness so powerfully, and there was no party to help him besides Allah, nor could he help himself.
Utterly alone.
It highlights his utter, absolute helplessness when divine decree manifests. When the true power asserts itself, all human constructs of support, whether it's wealth, social influence, connections, they just crumble into utter insignificance. There's no external force that can reverse the divine will, nor any internal strength in his pride or self-reliance that can withstand it. He is left entirely alone with his profound regret, stripped bare of everything he thought defined him.
This also really underscores the huge importance of the friend's earlier warnings, doesn't it? The ones the man just arrogantly dismissed.
Absolutely. The story underscores the immense value of wise friends, sincere advisors, timely warnings in life. We often become blind to our own errors, don't we? Especially when we're fueled by ego and apparent success.
It's easy to do.
Trusted friends can provide that crucial perspective. They see the warning signs we miss because we're too close to our own delusions. The source notes that ignoring these warnings leads down an ego-driven path, a self-validating echo chamber where every choice seems right, especially when it's bolstered by power and money.
You stop listening.
You stop listening, and this creates a dangerous isolation where you can't hear the truth, even when it's spoken by someone who genuinely wishes you well.
The source also gives some incredibly vivid, relatable anecdotes, doesn't it? They bring this abstract idea of sudden loss, the fragility of our stuff, right into our daily lives.
Yes, there are two really powerful ones that truly hit home. First, this recent, real-world example of a neighbor's garden catching fire. The person witnessing it observed simply nothing was left.
Wow, just gone.
Just gone. This isn't some ancient parable. It's a stark modern reality. It shows how quickly things can vanish, whether it's a meticulously tended garden, a bustling factory, a cherished home, or a prized car. It powerfully emphasizes that intense, misplaced attachment to these material things. It can lead to profound psychological, sociological, economic devastation when they're suddenly irrevocably gone.
Your whole world crumbles.
Your entire foundation of identity and security can be shattered, leading to exactly the kind of bitter regret we see in the rich man.
And the second anecdote, about the canton owner, that really highlights how much our perceived value, even our relationships, can be tied to our possessions and status, rather than who we actually are.
Precisely. The canton owner's observation was both poignant and insightful. He said, people who never sought my advice before started asking for it when I had a canteen, but they vanished when it was gone.
Ouch. That's telling.
Isn't it? It powerfully illustrates how people's perceived value often disappears right along with their wealth or position. It's a harsh, but maybe honest reminder that many relationships, often unconsciously, are transactional, based on what someone has, rather than who they are at a fundamental level. It's a sobering reflection on the superficiality that can creep into human interactions when material things become the main way we measure worth. So, to you, our listener, we ask, what are your gardens? Your possessions, your status, your career, your perceived security, the things you might unconsciously feel are invulnerable.
And maybe just as importantly.
And who are the voices in your life that you truly listen to, even when they challenge your comfort or your deeply held certainties, the ones guiding you away from potential self-oppression? 6. The ultimate truth. All authority belongs to Allah. Ayahs 43-44.
This whole journey through these powerful verses, it really culminates in this profound declaration, doesn't it? A foundational truth that reshapes our entire understanding of power, purpose, and ultimately true peace.
The bottom line.
It's the ultimate reality check for anyone prone to the kinds of delusions, the self-serving arrogance we saw in the rich man.
This profound declaration is summed up in the phrase, Velayat lillahi haq. Here, the authority or guardianship, Velayat, belongs to Allah, the truth.
Velayat lillahi haq.
This means that true power, ultimate governance, fundamental reality, it rests solely with God, not with fleeting worldly possessions or temporary human constructs or self-proclaimed dominion. It's an assertion that despite appearances, God is the ultimate authority, the ultimate reality.
The only reality, in a sense.
And he is best in reward, savab, and best in ultimate outcome, uqba. Now, this isn't just about the afterlife. It means acknowledging God's ultimate authority, aligning with it, that leads to the best outcome in any situation, here and now, in this world, and in the future, like a blueprint for flourishing, whatever the circumstances.
And this includes understanding that even what we have is a test, not just what we lose or lack. That fundamentally shifts how we should approach our blessings.
Crucially, yes. The source highlights this concept of dinenme, testing, as an omnipresent reality of life. Both abundance and loss are equally profound tests.
Both sides of the coin.
Exactly. Wealth, position, children, health, even our talents, our opportunities, all are means by which God tests us, challenging our humility, our gratitude, our patience, our sense of responsibility. Recognizing this brings profound peace. It allows you to consciously avoid that shmaruk and kibir we talked about earlier.
Because you see it differently.
When you see your blessings as a trust, as a test, you're far less likely to become arrogant about them, much more likely to use them responsibly for good, with gratitude, knowing they aren't inherently yours, but a temporary stewardship.
It also brings up how much society often judges people based on these temporary things, which only feeds into this whole cycle of delusion, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The source highlights that pervasive societal tendency to value individuals based solely on their wealth or position. Think of the subtle or not-so-subtle distinctions we make. Landlord versus tenant, CEO versus janitor, or that harsh societal judgment that a penniless person is useless or has failed. This judgmental gaze, this superficial valuation of others, it ultimately leads to internal shirk within ourselves, because it distracts us from recognizing the inherent dignity and value of every human being as God's creation.
And it hurts the judger, too.
Ironically, yes.
Yeah.
It leads to deep unhappiness and spiritual poverty for the one doing the judging, because they're perpetually striving for external validation, which is a never-ending, unsatisfying chase. The act of truly valuing every person, regardless of their material circumstances, as a unique, dignified creation, that is a profound test in itself.
So ultimately, it's about shifting our focus, our ultimate concern, moving away from social approval and towards divine pleasure. That sounds truly liberating.
Precisely. It's a radical call to shed those anxieties about social pressure that plague so many of us. What will Ahmed say? What will Mehmet say? What will the community think if I do this or don't do that?
All that noise.
All that noise. Instead, the focus becomes singularly powerfully. Are you, my Lord, pleased with this action? Is this aligned with truth and goodness? This involves constant, diligent self-assessment of our daily behaviors, our choices, our intentions, not against shifting superficial societal standards, but against enduring divine values. It's a truly liberating shift from chasing fleeting external validation to cultivating deep, unshakable internal integrity and peace.
The earthquake analogy from the source is incredibly vivid. It really shows how our perception of God's presence, our dependence on Him, can change so dramatically with our circumstances. It's a powerful illustration of where our true trust lies, isn't it?
It truly paints a powerful, unforgettable picture. Imagine yourself in, say, 6.6 magnitude earthquake, trapped under debris, survival hanging by a thread, every moment battle for breath.
Terrifying.
In those moments of ultimate helplessness, profound vulnerability, stark realization dawns. Allah is right there. His presence is acutely, undeniably felt. Dependence on Him becomes absolute. But then contrast that. Comfortably enjoying a scenic view by a serene sea, maybe indulging in fleeting pleasures, feeling utterly secure, in control. In those moments of comfort, self-sufficiency, the question can arise, where is Allah?
Complacency sets in.
Exactly. This stark contrast highlights how our perception of God's presence and our dependence on Him often shifts dramatically with our circumstances. The ultimate goal, the challenge, is to maintain that same level of conscious awareness, humility, and profound dependence on the divine, regardless of whether we're experiencing comfort or adversity.
Ultimately, then, what's the profound end goal, the lasting impact of truly embracing this ultimate truth that all authority belongs to Allah?
The profound end goal is to live a life of deep, authentic humility, free from that corrosive arrogance, free from the dangerous illusion of self-sufficiency. It's to avoid making anything a partner to God, not wealth, not power, not status, not even our own intellect. Recognizing that all power and sustenance, all blessings and trials flow solely from Him. This mindset, this profound spiritual liberation, it alleviates the fear of death, because you recognize life and death are just phases within His ultimate authority and plan. It prepares you for any outcome, overwhelming abundance or profound loss, with a heart at peace, knowing that ultimate reality, true power, resides eternally with the truth.
So to you, our listener, maybe the most vital reflection is this. In what areas of your life do you unconsciously assign vilayat, ultimate authority or guardianship, to something other than the ultimate truth?
That's the question.
What would fundamentally change in your daily choices, your interactions, your very definition of success if you truly deeply embrace that all authority, all power, all ultimate reality belongs solely to Allah?
Summary and conclusion.
Wow, what a journey we've shared today. We've really unpacked some incredibly profound insights about our relationship with wealth, power, and, well, our own selves, drawing this timeless wisdom from these powerful verses.
Yeah, it's deep stuff. To maybe summarize these insights into memorable, actionable takeaways, think about these key slogans, maybe anchors for thought.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, true security lies in profound trust, not in mere accumulation of possessions.
Trust, not stuff.
Second, beware the ego inflated by temporary gains. It's a self-inflicted wound, a spiritual poison.
Watch out for that pride.
Third, every possession you have, every moment of your life is a sacred trust, and every experience is a test.
Everything's a test. Got it.
Fourth, acknowledge the giver, not just the gift. Recognize that all power and all blessings flow from the one.
Focus on the source.
And finally, your authentic worth comes from aligning with ultimate truth, not from seeking fleeting societal approval.
True worth is internal, aligned with truth. Love it. Those are powerful summaries.
Hopefully helpful anchors.
Definitely. And if you, our listener, found this deep dive valuable today, please do consider supporting us, liking this content, subscribing.
It really helps.
It truly does. Your engagement helps us continue these important conversations and share these kinds of insights with a wider audience. We really appreciate it. Now, to leave you with a final, maybe provocative thought to ponder, something to mull over beyond our discussion today.
Okay.
If our lives, our possessions, even our very being, are part of a continuous divine test, how does that singular perspective transform your daily choices and your personal definition of success right here, right now, in this very moment?
Something to really sit with.
We hope this deep dive has offered you valuable insights, maybe some moments of clarity. Please join us next time as we continue our exploration into profound topics that shape our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.